Okay, Necromancer spells now. We have Claw, the basic one, which is the standard for all the townspeople as well as Necromancers. They all seem to have that as their basic attack. Nothing really to comment about it. It's just your standard first attack, really. Necromancer tends to stick around an attack spell and a healing spell each level, which is quite handy. We've got a level up for Claw already, which is Graze, which is a slight boost. Necromancers seem to get regular attack boosts more than the others for their in terms of what spells they get, which is quite nice. And there's also Comfort, which is the first healing spell, very basic healing. 22 hit points healed, not too bad there. That's early on in the game as well, so it's good to have a couple of these healing spells with you. Level 3 you get Hurt, the next step up from Graze. It's I think that's the last single target spell, I may be wrong there. But it's decent damage, not as high as the others I don't think. Jolt and Cut and all that a lot. But that's one you're going to be using for quite a while for single targets. Relief is another healing spell. 34 there, quite a bit more than Comfort. Decent upgrade. That's all you can really say about it. Wound is a multi-target spell. Level 4 I think is quite early for most of them. 12 damage each, not too bad. And considering how early you get it, that's going to be quite a useful spell to have around. Solace is the next healing spell. As I said, you seem to get one of these each level. 25 hit points per heal, which is a fair boost, I think, from the previous one. So that's quite a handy one to have around. Slay is when you get into serious damage territory for the Necromancer. It's another multi-target one. 16 each, that took down quite a bit of their hit points, I notice. Slay's a very decent spell, and it's one you'd be happy to use, if not for the fact that you get an even stronger one for the next level. Cure is the next healing spell up. I'm not entirely sure what this one's about. It seems to be a quick cast and doesn't heal an awful lot. Not sure why. I don't think it fixes Cleave. I know there is a Necromancer spell that does do that, but I'm pretty sure it's not Cure. Sorry, I said Cleave, I meant Rend, when you lose max hit points. Not entirely sure what Cure's all about. Doesn't look that good anyway, if it can't heal you under all circumstances, unlike the others. Blind is a status effect one that I never really give much of a chance. It just seems to do the old spellbound thingy, which is probably quite handy. Wouldn't have thought it would last too long, considering it's like a level... Is that a late level 5 or an early level 6? I don't remember. But either way, I suppose it's nice to have another character that can do spellbinding for tactic purposes, but that's one that I often overlook. Death, we're now getting into good damage. Death's another multi-target, target all, and it does a ton of damage to each of them. That's level 6, that's really, really good for level 6. Highly recommend grabbing that one whenever you can. Health is the really good healing spell. That's one you're going to be using the most, I think, out of them all, when you can get to it. And if you need it, of course. This is basically the frenzy of healing. Most characters seem to get a spell like this. That healed a ton for everyone. It can be a bit thin on the overall amount restored compared to some of the previous spells, but on the whole, when you get into later stages when enemies use all multi-target spells anyway, this might, save you for another round. Now we get into the stage where the kind of attack healing combos for spells for the Necromancer goes a bit off. We get a scatter spell here, which I think is the only one for the Necromancer. Dazzle. It's not a great one, I don't think. It's like 2 damage for each bolt. I think it's just there, so you do have one. Which is weird because some of the other characters don't, but regardless, that's not too great. You'd probably be better off sticking with like Hurt, even over Dazzle. Don't recommend it too much. Insane is another spell that inflicts Spellbound, and this one is really handy. It's the equivalent of Mesmer. Is that the sorcerer spell that does Spellbound? There's no range to it at all, but yeah, everyone got that. That's lucky, that is. It's not an all-target spell, it's just multi-target, but it tends to do a majority of them, and obviously that's game-breaking right there. Very useful. Repair isn't a spell I can show off, annoyingly, because you have to wait to have your hit points rendered, and that's not too likely to happen with just one knight opposing me. But yeah, it fixes your hit points if they're rendered. Repairs body parts, I suppose, is the angle they're going for there. I think it's probably just the same kind of animation as all the curing spells, but that's quite a handy one to have around. Saves you going to heal at the temple a lot of times, especially when you're in certain areas where there aren't temples for miles. Repairs quite niche, but quite useful. Restore is basically really amazing. It's another frenzy healing spell, and this heals you so much more than the other one. 287 altogether. That's incredible. If I was on lower hit points, you'd see the difference that makes. The only downside is because it's such a late level, you're not going to be using it an awful lot. But it's definitely one you want to grab, just on the off chance. Definitely. Freeze, I think I've mentioned before, is a spell I don't like because it doesn't seem to have any downside at all. It'll freeze an enemy. There's supposed to be a 50% chance of breaking out of freeze. I've never seen enemies have a problem, and I've never had a problem with that. I think it's a bit of a broken spell, in the sense that it doesn't work. I've never had any problems with freeze whatsoever. It's one I sort of hope enemy necromancers use, for the sheer fact that they're pretty much wasting a turn by casting it. Perfect is pretty much the creme de la creme of healing. Use that and you get fully healed, I think. Oh, and it casts twice. I didn't know it cast twice. I thought it was just a one-shot thing, but you saw the downside there being that it doesn't target everyone. So it will have its uses, just not too often. For the most part, you'll stick with Restore, I think. But it's a nice one to have around, definitely. Raise is obviously another one I can't show off, annoyingly. Dead characters get brought back from the dead. It's interesting that I can't cast it because it's supposed to have another effect. Apparently if you cast it with no allies dead, it's supposed to damage an enemy randomly for quite a lot of hit points. Not sure what this is all about, because you can't cast it without a dead ally, and there's no other way around it, I don't think. There's no other way to heal allies, so Not really sure. I'm going to hazard a guess that this is just a healing, just to bring allies back to life spell. And then you have Reaper, which is one-eye dread and love at the same time. It's major damage there. Wiped out 2 of them, which is what I expected. Other 2 aren't hanging in by much. This is a really good final move. I know they're all similar, I think I keep saying this, but you can't help but really prefer some to others, and that's just kind of an awesome one.